Moscow signaling another major retreat and pulling its forces now out of the city of Kherson. This is recent video from the Ukrainian counteroffensive that has been pushing closer to Kherson for weeks now and attempting to cut off the escape of the Russian occupying force. The fighting on that southern front is fierce, with both sides taking heavy losses. This morning, we're getting a new assessment of the military casualties from Russia's war. The top U.S. General Mark Milley says Russian forces have suffered about 100,000 killed or wounded in action dating back to the start of the invasion. He says Ukrainian losses are likely just as high. That's a grim point to underscore our conversation today with Abby Kugathasan. She's there in our studio in London. The next move appears to be Ukraine's, with Russia retreating from Kherson. What is Ukraine saying about what we're seeing from the Russian military?
Caution, 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 Heather. An advisor to the Ukrainian president says there are some signs Russian soldiers are retreating, but not in large enough numbers to indicate a full withdrawal. He also said they're destroying bridges, which some analysts believe is an indicator they're on their way out. Now, U.S. General Milley estimates that 20 to 30,000 Russian troops are north of the Dnipro River and says that it would take time for them to withdraw. But Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, again, being cautious and says there will be no gifts in this war.
So
they're ready to defend this region, and they're not ready to leave the city. And the fact that they are in these homes means that they are seriously preparing. But we are also seriously prepared for these developments. But we're not considering this as just one single operation. We have a strategy and different directions.
Still, the Kremlin's televised announcement is deeply significant. Kherson is the only regional capital Russian forces have captured since the invasion began earlier this year. It was and remains the largest military victory for the Kremlin, and not just a symbolic one, a strategic one too. Kherson is vital if Ukraine retakes it because of its proximity to Crimea, and that would be the annexed peninsula, and it would put it within striking distance of Ukrainian forces. Now, Kyiv could also disrupt the fresh water supply into the peninsula as well. But again, Ukraine publicly remaining very skeptical, and an official, Mikhailo Podolyak, has accused Russian troops of turning Kherson into a city of death, Heather, he says, by mining everything that they can.
Let's talk about what this retreat means for the Kremlin and for Vladimir Putin, Abby. Putin, we are also hearing, is pulling out of the G20, which was set for Indonesia, apparently to avoid any confrontation with U.S. President Joe Biden and other leaders who are going to be in attendance and, of course, who have been backing Ukraine. How much of a setback is this for Putin?
Heather, even pro-Russian commentators are calling this a major setback, like blogger Boris Rogen, who posted on Telegram that this is the most serious military defeat since 1991. Now, the televised confirmation of the withdrawal came on Wednesday. We saw Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu and military commanders. They were the messengers. Vladimir Putin was nowhere to be seen, unlike a few weeks ago when he announced that Kherson and 3 other regions would be annexed, claiming these areas would be Russia forever. That was a celebration. This is a setback. But NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg is also keen to emphasize that this war is not over. Let's have a listen to what he had to say this morning.
We must not forget that Russia still has a lot of military capabilities. We have seen the missile attacks, the drones attacks against Ukrainian cities, critical infrastructure, power plants, and therefore the war is not over, and we should not underestimate the brutality of the Russian armed forces.
Now, some analysts believe that Putin is looking to avoid a chaotic repeat of the retreat from Kharkiv in September. But again, Ukraine not taking any Russian claims for granted, Heather.
Abby, thank you. Abby Kugathasan is in London.